See how it takes a second in order for you to like figure out like what the timing is for that? Tell me.
I do.
All right, so we're switching things
No
up.
joke.
Yeah, we're switching things up tonight, y'all. We're live tonight. It's on Friday night. Hopefully, I'm watching LeBron James get himself into the championship later on this evening. But regardless, it's time for some Dynasty discussion here with the mailbag fellas, Adam and Chris. And tonight we're keeping the discussion fairly broad, just because, we're in like week 5. COVID has now moved 3 games now, and we've had like 4 or 5 other possible scares with multiple teams having like positives, false positives, and things of that nature, which have shifted some games and made us think that games were going to be postponed. So the thing that we were discussing shortly before that might be at least of use, maybe not from a strategy perspective, but just how you can see how other folks are handling their rosters, is what are folks doing when it comes to setting their rosters like in these COVID times. Because I don't know how many times y'all, I don't know if it's what it's like for you, Adam, but I'll just say that I'm in a lot of leagues. Not just dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, high stakes leagues. Too many leagues. But regardless, I don't know how many times I've logged on to my team and I've either seen not just one, not just 2, but 3 guys that might not be playing that week. One guy that's definitely out, an injury, a guy that need to move to an IR spot or something like that. And it's just difficult to, one, process that information, because you're thinking that you have a guy that you want to start. And then 2, having to manage your squad so that you actually have a starting roster afterwards. So, walk me through, kind of what you're thinking about when it comes to setting rosters, having to deal with what we're dealing with right now, with what everybody's dealing with when it comes to setting their rosters in these times.
Yeah, I'm going to be quite honest with you. A lot of the things that I've done so far is just avoid. I've just been avoiding the games. But the problem is we have a week coming up. What do we have? A game on Tuesday, I believe. So we have games all the way through.
Doubleheader on Monday and then a game on Tuesday.
Yep. So it's getting harder for people like me who just wanted to say I want to avoid it. Because here's the problem. I'm in 10 leagues. Okay, so I have some commissioners that are letting us put in replacements, and they all do it different ways. One of the leagues, you have to go into our group me chat and say, I'm starting this player, if that player doesn't go, etc.
Right.
I haven't messed with it so far, to be quite honest with you, because I don't build enough depth. And it's great for winning a championship if nobody gets hurt. I just noticed that about myself. I've got plenty of teams that are very top heavy, so I don't really have the depth to mess with it. Anyways, I'd rather just put the player in that I know is playing than try to deal with it. And then 2, like if the game doesn't get played at all, or a lot of times you're treating it like your Monday questionables, right? Like you're screwed unless you can go on the waiver wire and pick up their backup. But how often does that work, especially in these deep dynasties? So it's getting really hard to avoid. What I'm going to have to do is just go through all of my leagues and give myself a cheat sheet on what the rules are going to be, because if I can replace players, I'm just going to have to put in replacements. I'm just going to have to start doing it. Just take a second to a moment of silence for commissioners this year. This is it's like a full-time job. I can't believe that they're doing this. I like the commissioners that are just saying, hey, you knew what you were signing up for this year. Figure it out. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. If it comes down to a couple decimal points and my replacement would have won, I'll probably be pretty upset. But overall, I'm just trying to avoid those players. And the problem is, like, if you bank on a Titans player on Tuesday, that team can't get it together. So when are they going to play? And the NFL, they've talked about forfeits here and there. Almost had a whisper. If a team does have to forfeit, you're forfeiting your points.
It's difficult. It really is.
It's really hard to manage. So I guess we need to get some sort of advice out of my portion of this. It's going to be probably put together a cheat sheet, especially for multiple leagues, to understand how each league is going to work, and then just set aside a little more time to set in your lineups, because it's going to take. We're playing chess this year instead of checkers.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple of folks in the chat. I was noticing Wesley commish over in one of his leagues, and I definitely agree. adding some extra bench spots, IR spots, so folks can start to manage their players properly. I think that that should have been discussed like up front. And then I think the other point that he made of just having that upfront clear communication, like with the folks in their league as to this is the direction that we're taking. If some folks like didn't have those discussions like prior to the season, I think trying to at least taking a second, like during the weeks, let's say waivers run on Tuesday, Wednesday morning or whatever, then you want to try and have that discussion and say like everybody, like, let's have a vote. Let's see what the league agrees on from a majority standpoint, and we'll go from there. That happened in a couple of my leagues where we hadn't had that discussion. So it was basically, I think one of those proposals came up where I had made that suggestion of putting in replacements. Some other folks said that they wanted to just let it be, and we will treat these COVID games like as injuries. And the league voted, and everybody wanted to, everybody's on their own, right? I mean, everybody wanted to go that route, but at least it was a discussion. It was an honest and open discussion. Everybody stated their case. We voted on it, and then it kind of is what it is afterwards. But I think that's the easiest way to approach it versus like just silence, or people just trying to figure it out on their own, or commissioners really not giving as much direction as they need to. So players and like just fantasy managers in general know what they're supposed to do. Now that's from a league sense. Now from a roster setting sense, since that's what we were talking about, I think especially when it comes to Dynasty, I think a lot of folks, some of their strategies might get challenged. Because especially in these like super flex 2 quarterback leagues, if you happen to kind of fly by the seat of your pants when it comes to drafting at the quarterback position, like me too. Actually, go ahead and pull up my roster, man, because I'll go ahead and show y'all what happened to me. Look at these quarterbacks, y'all. I came into the season, with a prayer. Thinking, all right, so I get Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's fine. I traded for Cam like in the off season, just thinking, all right, well, even if he's not going to get signed, I can get him on the cheap. We'll see where things go. And then at the beginning of the season, week 1, I'm thinking I am set, I am good. If I need to make a move during bye weeks or whatever to pick up a third quarterback, that's fine. And then I lose Jimmy Garoppolo to injury, and then I'm out Cam Newton because of COVID. Like all within the span of a couple of weeks. And so you can see where I'm stuck at now in terms of my quarterback position. Everything else is fine. I'm happy with my running backs, wide receivers that got some depth there. Tight ends, I'm glad Mo Alley Cox has shown up. But when it comes to actually, trying to manage my squad, it's just my particular approach to this group. To this team, it hasn't really worked out as I had planned. So for some folks, like if they, for the people, the 2QB SF crowd that likes to roster 4 to 5 quarterbacks, this might be the season for you, because this is probably going to work out in your favor, especially, at a position that has been affected so much so far. But because we normally have depth at the running back position, we have depth at wide receiver position, tight end. Okay, maybe not so much. But for quarterback, man, if you are not, either fairly set or have multiple backup options, this might be tough for you to make it through the 2020 season without having to make a couple of trades you might not like. Or, I guess the other thing that we can get into, and kind of my question to you. So if you think your roster is in a decent position, and it's really just you're having to deal with quarterbacks, do you sacrifice any of the players on your any of the current powerful players on your team in order to try and make a push for this season? Or do you just, I know we're only in week 4, week 5, early on in the season, but do you kind of make those moves now in order to position yourselves for the playoffs? Or because of COVID, do you just kind of say, hey, we'll just ride it out, and then maybe make the call to pack it in like later on in the season? I'm not sure yet, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I can't stop giggling over here because our name tags are switched. I hope you say
Yeah,
something
I know.
dumb.
I saw it.
Or wait, I should say something dumb so they come at
Yeah.
your handle. So that's something that John Bosch has been talking about a lot. He loves to get into the philosophy of things. We've had him on the Dynasty Owners Manual in the past. Just a very, very intelligent individual, and he's been talking about, okay, do you forfeit some of this year? Well, maybe not, because a lot of people are forfeiting this year for the same thought. So what do you do? Well, the best thing to do is get contrarian. You have to think players are coming at a discount, because if so many people want to forfeit and just say, I don't want to deal with this, I'll go for a championship next year. Well, if they're trying to get players off the roster that are contending, you're going to get contending players this year that would have been far more expensive in years past. So I've seen a lot of trades where people are getting quality players for a lot cheaper than what would happen in previous years. I know I've been trading quite a bit recently on teams that I'm not very good in, and pretty close to packing it in my Trade Addicts League. And I just sold Keenan Allen for N'Keal Harry and Joshua Kelly. So, I mean, it's about that time. I mean, if you're not going to push for it, it's almost to me like I'm losing a year of these players in a way, because if I'm going to miss the championship by Keenan Allen didn't play, like say that the Chargers miss a game, Chargers forfeit a game, something like that. I mean,
Right.
if you're going to miss the championship because your player or the team that your player plays for gets a forfeit, or whatever could happen with COVID-19. I mean, we got to remember we're only quarter through the year.
Exactly.
Then if you're right on the brink, you might not be right on the brink, is what I'm trying to get at. It feels more like playing showdown slate DFS right now. I mean, you think you're good for 1 second, and then you could be screwed at any time. So unless I'm a strong contender, like I have a team that I have Lamar, Chris Carson, CMC, hopefully coming back soon, Dalvin Cook, DJ Chark. I mean, the team top to bottom is just completely stacked. I'm not doing anything. I hope that my team is stacked enough to where it doesn't matter. I can weather if I lose Chris Carson for a week, I should still win. If I lose, hopefully not Lamar, but if I lose Lamar for a week, I should still win. Those teams I'm not worried about. Those brink teams, you need to really take some time and sit there and look at them and say, can I exploit the market right now? Because being stagnant is doing nothing. You can sell right now and make a profit. You can buy right now and make a profit. But being stagnant is just saying, I don't feel like dealing with this year. I mean, okay, but that's not going to help you.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that I would say that fantasy managers, that's how they shouldn't approach this season, is that like, well, I'm just going to set my roster, not going to try and make any moves or whatever. I think now would be probably one of the best times. I mean, maybe not, maybe if it's not trade specifically that might impact your team like farther on down the line. But I mean, we've seen a number of just literally like no name players. I mean, players with names that look like they are creative player, like type of guys. I mean, Travis Fulgham. I mean, Jeff Smith. Now people are talking about him for the Khalif. I mean, those are guys that are probably out on your waiver wire for free. I mean, for a lot of folks that probably still have a number of like free agents or just guys like sitting on the end of your bench. I mean, those are guys that you can instantly start to churn like on the back end of your rosters that will give you at least some like more value than some of the guys that are sitting at the end of those benches. So I would at least say, I mean, like in a couple of my leagues, I went out and I picked up who's the running back out of New England, JJ Taylor. So I picked him up in a couple of leagues. I picked up a lot
of Dontrell Inman.
Dontrell Inman for sure. I mean, there's just like those guys, like, while again, from a redraft DFS perspective, we would consider them to be nobodies because on a week to week standpoint, we might not have any interest in starting them. But from a dynasty perspective, I mean, I would argue that some of those guys have more value than some of at least in some leagues. I mean, some of you guys are probably have guys that aren't even on actual NFL rosters, like still sitting on you, still sitting on your squads. Well, so I mean, churn the bottom of that roster.
It's not just, and yes, we should have always been doing that. It's not just COVID that having no training camp. God, what a beaten drum that was. But I mean, we can at least stick to the part that we know to be true. If there's no training camp, that your body's not going to get quote unquote warmed up. I mean, it's like working out without doing any dynamic warm ups, whatever. You're going to be
Right.
susceptible to injury. So these players, basically jumped right into the season cold and get hurt. All right. So look at it from a dynasty perspective. Guys are getting opportunities that would not have gotten an opportunity in the past. Look at Zacchaeus. We're all over him this week in DFS, as is everybody. Well, he could be relevant in dynasty because we're looking at a team where Julio's been hurt all season. There was fake trade rumors about Julio. He's 31 now, going 131.
No.
Who's to say that Zacchaeus in this crazy season doesn't earn himself a role and you got him for a $0 bid off the waiver wire?
Right.
Guys are getting up. I mean, Greg Ward is getting a huge Apples wide receiver 1 because no one can go.
Yeah.
No one on that team can go. I mean, they even lost Goddard. So you got to be turning the bottom of your roster right now. Pay attention to your league rules. Create a cheat sheet if you're in multiple leagues because, my goodness, there's no way. I can't even remember all my rosters in full, at least. There's no way I can remember all of the rules to each of my leagues with COVID. So definitely create a cheat sheet. And it's kind of like we talked about in DFS the other week when we lost a lot of players off of the main slate. And I think we even lost a game off the main slate. We're looking at and we're just like, man, this is disgusting. We should just not play. Well, that's not really the best way to look at it because everyone else has to deal with that disgust too. Right. So, look at it the same way in Dynasty. You want to just say, yeah, I'm going to click my check boxes this year and whatever happens, happens. You want to do that just like you want to not play the main slate, but it's not going to help you. You need to try to take advantage of the market.
Yeah, as much as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can. I mean, nobody's saying that you need to be in your league mates' DMs like every week trying to force a trade, but at the very least, I mean, you should be looking at trying to find those no-name guys that pop, so that you can start to at least build some depth like towards the back end of your rosters, so that you're always trying to build, always trying to see like who that next guy is going to be that can wind up having value on your team. Because just like you said, I mean, Zacchaeus, again, no name as of right now. I mean, has some, obviously some value given this current week, but I mean, again, if Julio Jones decides to hang him up, hey, he could be right in line for not taking over Julio Jones's role, but I'm just saying in an offense like that, as much as they're passing, I mean, that's immediate volume, like for a player that at least from he passed the eye test this past week. I mean, we'll see what he does with an extended look this upcoming Sunday. But again, that's where at least it takes the bare minimum effort in order for us to actually to improve our rosters even in just a minor way.
Yeah, and spend a little bit more than you're really comfortable with on Tyler Johnson and Fab. I mean, don't blow your Fab, but I'm just looking at guys like Tyler Johnson that got opportunity. Oh my goodness, Peter Howard was probably so happy, but there's guys like that who, frankly, he's not on a lot of waivers in a lot of dynasties. But if you're one of those dynasty leagues where Tyler Johnson is on waivers, maybe you have a shallow bench or something like that, go get him with your like he's worth the pickup. And it's just, this year's going to be crazy. And Mike Evans is going to be hurt. Chris Godwin's going to be here. You're going to see these guys get opportunity, and coaches aren't going to stop playing these players because the guys, came back. I mean, Tyler Johnson looked really, really good, and they kept going back to him. So, I mean, you're going to pay a little bit for him at that now because he had 10 points or whatever, but he was already a really good prospect and fell really late in the draft, and this is what happened. So it's just a crazy year, but it's allowing for us, like, we don't really get Tyler Johnson in other years. I don't feel like it. You don't get Zacchaeus. You don't get, who did you say earlier? Jeff Smith.
Yeah, Jeff Smith. Yeah. Although
that's made up.
That's probably real. Like less of a chance since he plays for the Jets and it's Joe Flacco throwing in the ball. But still,
he's not possible. Real.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So that's what I've got for today's show. Just look at the glass half full. Make make lemonade or something, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're punting on the season, totally understand that. But at the very least, I mean, there are just little things that you can do for your squad in order to make them better. So you look, your buddy in the Michael Thomas is in the chat talking about snagging Robert Tanyan earlier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good. That's a great pickup because there was actually indication a few weeks prior that he was going to get the run as the receiving tight end anyways. It's just he didn't get picked up because what does that mean to us? Typically nothing. Who cares?
Well, wait, I think most of the Dynasty community was still on Sternberger.
Well, the problem is who cares either. The thing is, who cares either way? Sternberger was drafted early enough to warrant caring, but he was on Green Bay, so we were just like, okay, who cares? And then there's reports, like multiple reports that Tanyan's going to be getting all the receiving work at tight end, and we just like scroll right past it because who cares if he's getting the receiving work at tight end? Well, it turns out if you're a decent tight end, Aaron Rodgers will throw to you like he did with Jermichael Finley. Just so happens that he hasn't had decent tight ends. Now Jimmy Graham's catching touchdowns, but who knows?
Yeah. So, all right. I mean, again, a broad discussion, but it's hopefully something that you guys can take to each of your leagues. But that'll do it for tonight. I know that we wound up, switching places because Adam's in the host chair tonight. But I am actually Chris, even though my name is over on that side. Yep. But still, actually, we do have a question in the chat. So from Joz Whedon, does it seem like people are checking out pretty early and Dino's not sure how to keep people going? I don't know if trades. I mean, if you do see people starting to tap out early on in the season because of just getting hit with injuries, losing players due to COVID, and having them sit out or whatever. Yeah, I would think that would be one way to try and at least keep them interested, or at the very least, you can try and capitalize on their disinterest. Send them some trades. I mean, you might not be able to aim for their best players or the first round picks from this offseason, but some mid-tier players or something like that, some guys that they might have been thinking about moving anyway during the offseason. Yeah, for sure. Target some of their players and see if they might try and at least have the discussion about moving them.
Yeah, pick someone to buy low on. That's what I've done. I bought N'Keal Harry twice last week. I bought him again earlier this month. He's just had a rough go of it to start the year, and some of the factors haven't been completely N'Keal Harry's fault. So I bought him twice. I mentioned the first trade earlier, and then I sold Drake for N'Keal Harry and 2021 second. So just pick a guy and try to go after him, and that might spark some things and make your roster better at least.
Another question: would you sell Drake for Goddard in a 2021 second in TE Prem?
Yeah, probably.
That's not bad.
Probably. I mean, he's had smash spots this year.
Yeah, but it looks like multiple. At least.
I mean,
I would say at the very least, I know that his production overall has been bad, but Chase Edmonds is not just a backup.
No, we've seen Chase Edmonds be good. It's just that Drake happened to have 2-3 blow-up games last year to finish out the year, and it's always about what have you done for me lately. The problem is the offers are going to get worse and worse for Drake every week. That's why I traded him for Harry. And I wanted a 2021 first plus a low-range wide receiver that was young, Preston Williams, and a 2021 first would have been perfect for me. But when I got, I wanted to buy Harry anyways when I got that offer, and they declined the first offer for 2021 second and tried to send me somebody worse. And I'm like, I really can't go lower than that, but how much more can I ask for with Drake right now when, he played Carolina and scored 7 points.
And Chase was the one that got the passing touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not going to get there against the Panthers, and here's the bigger question with Drake, he needs a contract. He doesn't just need to do well for your dynasty team. He's playing for a contract, and he's not playing well. So do we want 27-year-old back that's never been a workhorse, 28, I think, that's never been a workhorse in his career, and now we expect he's going to not do well with the Cardinals, but then someone's going to pay him to be a future back? No, I'm getting out from under him. So a 2021 second, you hope that's early. I mean, if it ends up being early and you get Goddard and say Ertz doesn't sign again, that's a slam dunk.
It could be. I mean, I think so. I think that's pretty decent value at this point because I mean, unless he completely does a 180 on not necessarily usage, but like continuing back to that success rate that he had, and efficiency that he had last season, then sure. I mean, yeah, you should probably hold, but I don't know how that happens, at least at this point. We might be able to see glimpses of it. I mean, they are playing the Jets this weekend, so it's possible.
I'm not doing it. I don't care how cheap he gets in DFS. I'm not.
But I mean, the setup is there. So, I mean, at least he'll have, I would say, at least the game environment and the opportunity should be there for Drake in order to at least get back to that level of production. But if he doesn't do it after this week, that's why I don't mind that trade, especially at this point, because because you're not going to get that offer next week.
It's literally going to get worse every single week. That's why I did it when I did, because
those offers are going to be more and more like offensive at that point, and you're going to be, at least because I have Drake on a Dino roster, and if I get after this week, if he doesn't smash, or at least get back to like close to RB1 levels, I'm probably going to get offers that I'm just going to be like, I'll just decline out of just being offended, not because it's a bad value.
If he doesn't hit this week, you're getting offers for a second.
That's it. Yeah. It won't be a second plus. It'll just be for a 21 second. And you're going to be mad.
It doesn't mean that that's correct. That's just, I think this is my 10th year of Dynasty, and I'm telling you, these players, he was a Dynasty darling, but that only runs for so long when you just, if you can't, he's not getting it done. And there was really no indication that he was going to get it done in the first place, besides what he did for us lately, which was smash games at the end of the season, which is always a red flag. Yeah. I mean, if they finish the season smashing, you should probably trade him in the offseason, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes some sense too. Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate the questions, y'all. I always appreciate the interactions. If you want to get a hold of, hold on. We got one more. Trade mid to late 21 second for what looks to be pick 301 plus D'Ernest Johnson plus McKissick. Only RBs are Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Raheem Mostert, and Boston Scott. Pick mid to late the 21 second for what looks to be. I don't think I'd do that.
D'Ernest Johnson actually probably won't get any run. Hunt's off the injury report. We were talking about that for DFS earlier. If Hunt's going to be a full go, like D'Ernest Johnson only got that role because it was Kareem Hunt's role, and he jumps into the game and takes over Kareem Hunt's role because Kareem Hunt took over Chubb's role. Like, he's not going to get any run this week.
Right.
So you're basically just going back 2, 3, 4 spots to have 2 guys jam your roster. Probably not.
Yeah. And then Ja's also saying J-Jaw gets cut this week.
He's not going to get – there's no reason. What are they going to cut him for?
I would say he's still on a rookie contract. I mean, unless it's conduct detrimental to the team and it's like disciplinary action, I still think he'll be on the roster until he becomes expensive.
It doesn't mean anything good for him. He's
going to bounce around the league, find a second team, and he'll probably wind up on a practice squad somewhere. I mean, that'll be basically the story of J-Jaw. I mean, unless
he's going to be actually Dorial Green Beckham did kind of well with the Eagles, but still he fizzled out.
I keep saying Curtis Samuel to the Eagles.
If you cut him from here, well, it depends. It depends who you can add. I mean, do you want Inman or J.J. Arcega-Whiteside?
I don't know. I'm saying
that's a question.
Curtis Samuel for one of their the Eagles, let's say linebackers or defensive end.
Yeah, anyone.
Yeah,
dude, that would be awesome actually. But he's saying, should I cut him from my team?
Cut him from the waiver wire. Yeah, it depends on who's on the waiver wire. But I mean, he's not. I don't know, man. That's
the depth chart. I mean, he's better than anyone you're going to get on the waiver wire because the depth chart is so thin, and
not better than Travis Fulgham, who's on the same team.
I mean, I guess you're technically right because he's doing better than J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Arcega.
But still, I mean, I get the premise. I guess I'm still willing to hold on him I mean, just based off of, I mean, I know like probably holding on to his or looking at his cost from last season, that's a sunk cost at this point. But still, I do think that there is some hope for him moving forward. But I wouldn't cut him now. I would still hold him at least at this point. Yeah, he'd
unless
be
like Tanyan's out there or something, like definitely. And that Aaron Jones trade,
21,
like
23, 24 first, and DeAndre Swift. Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
No, that's good. It's good for
definitely like it because with a different team next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
yep.
I think.
All right. Well, I think you got anything else?
I think Aaron Jones, 3-year, $45 million extension.
I want to disagree with you, but I'm pretty much up to the point where I believe that the Packers just closed their eyes and threw darts at their first 2 picks because AJ Dillon has 3 carries on the year. Maybe. And Aaron Rodgers is looking like an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking he's going to wind up getting an extension. Probably not 45, maybe 4 years, 45. That might make a little bit more sense. Because how old is Aaron Jones? Is he 25?
26.
26? Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
I just made that up. Let me check.
I thought he was 25. I could be wrong.
December 2nd. So 26 this year. That's what I usually look at.
So yeah, so maybe 3 years, 40 mil.
Maybe gets Derrick Henry contract.
I can't see him getting a Derrick Henry contract though.
We'll see if he gets another 19 touchdowns. He might.
He's on pace for like 20 plus. So it's entirely, and that's after he sat out for most of a quarter. Yeah, he sat out for most of a quarter.
That was so weird.
Yeah,
I didn't care because Aaron Jones was 93% owned in my showdown slate, so I did not care that he was sitting out. All right, well, that's going to be it. I'm not Chris Allen FFWX. He is not APWILD, and we will catch y'all next time.
Peace.